We are looking at a transcript today that is, frankly, a wild ride. It's a commentary on the feud between Candace Owens and the Kirks, focused on this conspiracy about a missing wedding photo.
I have to say, the case of the missing bookshelf photo, I mean, it's a new one for me.
It is a lot. So let's just get right into it. The first major hurdle here is really about narrative focus and structural cohesion. The piece struggles to maintain a persuasive arc because it's just so fragmented. The interruptions are just jarring.
Jarring is putting it mildly. It's whiplash. You're reading along, and we're deep in this, conspiracy theory. We're talking emotional manipulation, transfer of power.
Right.
Even this, metaphorical murder. The tension is just cranked way up, and then, almost mid-sentence, it just pivots to a commercial for cowboy colostrum?
It's the vanilla or strawberry question, right after the demon accusation.
Exactly. And you have to ask, does the writer see how much damage that does to their own authority? You're building this case, this, Shakespearean tragedy about a reputation being murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And then you interrupt that to sell me a gut health drink? It just tells me the tragedy isn't actually that important.
It signals that this whole thing is just filler to get to an ad read?
Yeah, that's the core weakness. It's not just that there is an ad, it's that the placement, the transition, it just trivializes the entire argument. You don't know if you're listening to an investigation or, a shopping channel.
It creates a trust deficit.
Totally. As a listener, I'm thinking, okay, you just called Candace Owens a demon for this photo thing, but you're willing to pause that moral outrage for 30 seconds to sell me a supplement. The outrage starts to feel, performative.
So the fix. How do we approach this? I think the suggestion is pretty clear. Restructure the content. Group the thematic elements together, what we sometimes call thematic bucketing, before you even think about a commercial break. You have to earn that break.
Yes, you have to close the loop before you open the store. Look, in this script, the writer brings up the Newsweek article.
Which is the critical evidence.
It's everything. It's the proof the photo was just moved to a lower shelf for their daughter. That's the climax of the whole evidence trip. But the script introduces it, then stops for cowboy colostrum, and then finishes the thought later.
It just kills all the momentum.
Gone. So the fix is simple, but it's vital. You have to finish the entire Newsweek segment first. Nail down the fact that the photo is still there, just lower. Let that land. Let the audience absorb that the conspiracy is debunked. Then you use a bridge.
Right, not just jump.
A bridge like, okay, now that we've cleared up the mess on the bookshelf, let's talk about cleaning up your diet. Something, anything.
Exactly, you acknowledge the shift.
Right now, the transition is from Charlie himself, move the frame, straight to Charlie Cowboy, fix your gut. It's a word association pun.
Which is clever, I guess, but
tonally, it's a complete disaster. It's too cute for the gravity of the accusation they just made.
it's a pun where a period should be. And this grouping issue, it also applies to the anecdotes. Like the baby nurse story about the mask from years ago, it's dropped right in the middle of the wedding photo timeline.
I felt like I was channel surfing. One second I'm watching a show about a photo, the next I'm in a flashback about pandemic parenting.
So the writer needs to group that. Put the baby nurse story with the nighttime parenting critique. You could make a whole segment, call it a pattern of hypocrisy.
And that changes everything, doesn't it? Because if you frame it as a pattern of behavior, the nurse story becomes evidence. But if you just drop it in randomly, it just sounds like gossip. You're trying to build a case file, not just a stream of consciousness.
Exactly. Okay, let's move to the second major point, which is about credibility and tonal discipline. The script relies so heavily on ad hominem attacks, on this really hyperbolic language, that it ironically starts to diminish the strength of its own factual arguments.
This is what I call the rage trap. I get it. The writer is angry, the subject is infuriating to them, but the script is just saturated with these labels. Batshit crazy, psycho, demon, bitch, schizomaxing.
It reads less like public commentary and more like, a vent session in a private group chat.
And here's the problem with that. It preaches to the choir, but it totally alienates anyone who's undecided. If I already hate the subject, maybe I'm cheering. But if I'm just curious and I hear the narrator call someone a demon, I immediately check out. I stop trusting their judgment.
It suggests bias over analysis.
Precisely. You're telling me you're emotionally compromised. You're no longer an observer, you're a combatant, and that weakens your evidence. The listener starts to wonder, is the timeline really wrong, or does this narrator just, really hate her?
So the suggestion here is to elevate the critical tone. You can rely on wit, irony, logical inconsistency, you can destroy an argument without ever raising your voice.
And there's a perfect opportunity for this that the script just squanders. The writer points out that Candace claims she's a stickler for details,
Oh, yeah.
but she confused a middle schooler with a toddler. I mean, that is a massive contradiction.
It's a goldmine of irony.
But instead of letting that irony do the work, the writer follows it up with, she's batshit crazy. You don't need the insult. The fact is the insult. A stickler for details missing a 10-year age gap is it's objectively devastating on its own.
So a rewrite should just focus on that friction. Instead of Candace's warped psycho brain, you use something more analytical.
Right. Something like, for someone who builds her brand on doing the research, this is a remarkable failure of basic observation. That hits harder. It attacks her competence, not her sanity. One is critique, the other is just bullying.
And speaking of bullying, we have to talk about the Musa Chips ad read.
This was painful to read.
The writer uses an ad read for chips to mock the subject's pronunciation of the word satiating.
Why? I mean, just why? It feels so small. Unless you're going to connect that to a broader point about intellectual dishonesty or something, it just comes off as petty. And to do it during a sponsor read, it's just distracting.
It feels like they're looking for any rock to throw instead of choosing the biggest one.
And that leads perfectly into what I think is the biggest structural issue with this whole piece.
The buried lead.
Exactly. Critique point 3. Prioritization of evidence. The most potent, the most factual rebuttals are just buried under all this emotional speculation and personal incredulity.
It's like a mystery novel where the detective solves the murder in chapter 1 but doesn't tell anyone because he wants to talk about his interior decorating habits first.
Yes! The script spends so much time with the narrator saying things like, I redecorate my house all the time, or I move pictures. I don't know about y'all women out there. This personal monologue just goes on and on.
And all the while, they have the smoking gun just sitting in their pocket.
They do. The script eventually mentions that Newsweek confirmed the photo is just moved to a lower shelf so the daughter could see it. I mean, that explains everything. It dismantles the entire transfer of power conspiracy in one single sentence.
But it's delivered almost as an afterthought, way down the line after the cowboy colostrum ad.
It's maddening to read. If you have a fact that disproves the entire premise of the video you are critiquing, you lead with that. You hit the audience with it immediately.
So the suggestion is, obviously, front-load the strongest objective evidence. Use the personal opinion stuff, if at all, as secondary color.
Think of the inverted pyramid in journalism, Most important info goes right at the top. The script should start with, Candace Owens claims a missing photo proves a coup. Newsweek confirmed the photo is actually just on the bottom shelf for a child. Boom. Argument over.
And that creates a lens for the whole rest of the critique. Once the listener knows the boring truth, every clip of Candace spinning her theory becomes almost comedic.
It turns the conspiracy from scary to just ridiculous. If you hide the truth, the listener is kind of following along with you, maybe even believing it. But if you give them the truth first, they're laughing at the conspiracy with it. Completely changes the power dynamic.
And we have to cut the furniture monologue.
Please, burn it. I move things. That's who I am as a person. I'm sorry. Nobody cares. Nobody tuned in to hear about your feng shui habits. Your personal habits are not evidence.
And the Glenn Beck show context is another piece of buried evidence. The script mentions Erika Kirk said it was her first time in the office for a long duration, not her first time ever. That specifically rebuts Candace's attack.
And again, it's buried. That needs to be right up top with the Newsweek fact. Here are the 2 lies being told. List them. Debunk them. Then you can have fun with the My Charlies.
Okay, let's move to the final critique point. Clarity of context and argumentative logic. The script just relies on so much assumed knowledge, these logical leaps that just confuse the whole thing.
This is the inside baseball problem. The writer is so deep in the lore of this feud, they forgot that the audience might not be, living on the same subreddit they are.
The baby nurse story is the perfect example. We jump from a wedding photo to a nurse wearing a mask years ago. The connection is tenuous at best.
I was reading it, and I honestly got lost. I didn't know if the nurse was in the room with the photo or if it was a flashback. The script just lists grievances. She lied about the photo, and also she hated math.
So the suggestion is to explicitly state the logical connection. You have to connect the dots for the listener.
You can't just present a list of bad things. You have to say, this pattern of distorting reality isn't new. In fact, let's look at the baby nurse incident as a precedent. You have to frame it. Explain why I'm hearing this story right now.
And then there's Tyler Robinson. The text says they're waiting for the Tyler Robinson thing to be wrapped up before they can sue.
Who is Tyler Robinson? Is he the lawyer, a witness? The script just drops his name like we're all supposed to know who that is.
Right, like it assumes the audience is tracking specific court dockets.
Which is fatal for a general audience. A simple sentence would fix it. Tyler Robinson is involved in a related defamation suit that needs to conclude before they can take legal action. Suddenly, it's not an inside joke. It's a valid legal strategy.
It turns exclusion into inclusion. You're bringing the listener into the know, not testing them.
And the same thing goes for the My Charlie speech criticism. The narrator mocks Owens for her interpretation of My Charlie and this whole transfer of power thing.
But the script never actually explains the premise.
Exactly. It jumps straight to the mockery. Can you believe she thinks that? Well, no, I can't, because you haven't explained what she thinks. You have to set the pin up before you knock it down. Explain that Owens has this theory about the possessive my implying a coup. It sounds crazy, sure, but you have to explain the crazy before you can debunk it.
It's about pacing the logic, premise, evidence, conclusion. This script is jumping straight to the conclusion.
It's the curse of knowledge. The writer knows the story so well they're skipping chapters. They're fast-forwarding to the good parts and leaving the audience behind.
So stepping back, big picture here. This is a piece that's written with an incredible amount of passion. The writer clearly knows this subject inside and out. They have the receipts.
They have the receipts, but they're all crumpled up in their pocket. We just need to iron them out, file them in.
So the feedback really boils down to structural discipline. Group your theme. Keep the conspiracy talk separate from the ad. Don't let a commercial break undercut your murder metaphor.
And clean up the tone. You don't need to yell demon to prove someone is acting maliciously. The facts, like the Newsweek confirmation and the toddler versus middle schooler error, they're so much more damaging than any name you could call her. Use a scalpel, not a hammer.
And please, for the love of the story, move the Newsweek evidence to the front. Don't hide the solution to the mystery.
Honestly, if they just make that one change, moving the bookshelf evidence to the first minute, the entire script transforms. It goes from a rant about interior design to a really hard-hitting fact check.
And finally, just clarify the logic. Explain who Tyler Robinson is. Explain why the baby nurse story mattered. Don't assume we know. Teach us.
It's just about respecting the listener. Respect their time by being organized, and respect their intelligence by giving them a coherent argument, not just a list of insults.
So, to the listener who sent this in, you have a strong case here. The evidence is on your side. So now we want you to rewrite it. Focus on that Newsweek evidence first. Group your ads away from the climax. And, maybe drop the cycle labels to let the irony do the work.
I really do want to read the rewrite. I think it could be devastatingly effective.
Submit it again once you've made those changes. We would love to see how it improves. That's all for this critique. Keep writing.